I blocked my husband's number before boarding that plane. 7 days later, I unblocked it expecting panic and anger. Instead, I found nothing. No calls, no texts, just an empty house and a goodbye letter that destroyed me forever. If you've ever wondered how one selfish choice can incinerate an entire life, stay with me. This is my confession, my regret, and the price I paid for chasing a fantasy. Hit that like button if you believe actions have consequences, and subscribe because stories like mine need to be heard as warnings. I told myself it was harmless. Just 1 week, one tiny escape from the monotony that had swallowed my marriage whole. My husband James was a good man. No, he was a great man. The kind who remembered anniversaries, who fixed the leaky faucet without being asked, who kissed my forehead every single morning before work. But somewhere between year 3 and year 7, we'd become roommates. Our conversations were transactional. Did you pay the electric bill? What's for dinner? Good night. The spark had died, and I felt invisible in my own home. That's when Andrew messaged me. My ex from college, the one who used to make my heart race, who took risks, who lived like every day was an adventure. His message was simple. Been thinking about you. Miss the way we used to laugh. I should have deleted it. I should have told James. Instead, I replied. Within 2 weeks, Andrew had convinced me to meet him for a trip. Just as friends, he said, though we both knew that was a lie. A beach resort. 7 days. No responsibilities. No routine. Just freedom. I created an elaborate story for James. I told him my friend Betty was going through a terrible breakup and needed me. That Sandra, Barbara, and Susan were all coming along to support her. That we'd be at a cabin upstate with no cell service. James believed every word because he trusted me. That trust felt like a knife I was willingly twisting into his back, but I ignored the feeling. I was too intoxicated by the promise of feeling alive again. The night before I left, James made my favorite dinner. Pasta carbonara with extra parmesan, just the way I liked it. He'd even bought wine and lit candles. "I'll miss you," he said, reaching across the table to hold my hand. His thumb traced circles on my palm, a gesture so familiar it usually comforted me. That night, it made me nauseous with guilt. "It's just a week," I said, forcing a smile. "I know, but the house feels empty without you." His brown eyes were so sincere, so full of love I no longer felt I deserved it. That's when I made the worst decision of my life. I told myself that to fully enjoy this trip, to fully disconnect and feel free, I needed to eliminate all distractions, all guilt, all reminders of reality. So before I boarded that plane, I blocked James's number. My finger hovered over his contact for almost a minute. My heart was hammered. But then I thought about Andrew waiting for me, about 7 days of laughter and excitement, and I pressed block. The resort was paradise. White sand beaches, turquoise water, a room with a balcony overlooking the ocean. Andrew was everything James wasn't. Spontaneous, unpredictable, dangerous in the most thrilling way. We stayed up until 3 a.m. drinking cocktails by the pool. We danced in clubs where the music was so loud I couldn't hear my own thoughts. We kissed under the stars, and for those stolen moments, I convinced myself I was happy. But guilt is a persistent companion. Every night, after Andrew fell asleep, I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling. I'd think about James alone in our house. I'd wonder if he'd tried to call, if he was worried, if he missed me. Then I'd remember that I'd blocked him, that he had no way to reach me, and the guilt would squeeze my chest so tight I could barely breathe. I'd reach for my phone, my finger hovering over the settings where I could unblock him. But fear stopped me. Fear that if I saw his messages, his concern, his love, I wouldn't be able to continue the fantasy. So I'd turn my phone face down and force myself to sleep. By day 5, Andrew started talking about us having a future together. "You're not happy with him," he said as we walked along the beach. "I can tell. You deserve passion, Jennifer. You deserve to feel alive." His words should have thrilled me. Instead, they made me feel sick. Because the truth was, I wasn't unhappy with James. I was bored. And boredom isn't a reason to destroy someone who loves you. But I'd come this far. I'd already betrayed him. What difference would 2 more days make? On the final night, Andrew and I had dinner at an expensive restaurant overlooking the water. He ordered champagne and toasted to new beginnings. I smiled and clinked my glass against his. But inside, dread was building like a storm. I knew I had to go home. I knew I had to face James. And somewhere deep down, I knew nothing would ever be the same. The plane ride home felt like traveling toward my own execution. My stomach churned. My hands trembled. I kept replaying how I'd explain everything, how I'd apologize, how I'd beg for forgiveness. An hour before landing, I finally unblocked James's number. I expected an avalanche. 50 missed calls, desperate voicemails, angry texts demanding to know where I was, if I was safe, why I'd disappeared. But when my phone finished loading, there was nothing. Not a single call. Not a single text. Not even a, "Hope you're having fun with the girls." My blood turned to ice. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe he'd been busy with work. Maybe he'd assumed I really was out of service. Maybe he was giving me space because he trusted me. But a voice in the back of my mind whispered the truth I didn't want to hear. Maybe he knew. I took a cab home from the airport, my heart pounding harder with each passing mile. When the driver pulled up to our house, I noticed James's truck wasn't in the driveway. That was strange. It was Saturday. He should have been home. I paid the driver and walked to the front door with my suitcase rolling behind me. The key turned in the lock like always, but when I stepped inside, everything felt wrong. The house was too quiet. Not the peaceful quiet of a lazy weekend morning, but the hollow quiet of abandonment. "James," I called out. My voice echoed back at me. I walked through the living room. His reading glasses weren't on the coffee table. The book he'd been reading was gone. I moved to the kitchen, and that's when I saw it. An envelope on the counter. My name is written in James's careful handwriting. My hands shook so violently I could barely open it. The paper inside was crisp, and the words were written in blue ink, each letter perfectly formed. "Jennifer, I don't know where you went or why you shut me out, but your silence told me everything I needed to know. A husband should never have to beg for a place in his wife's life." I waited. I was worried. I called your friends, Betty, Sandra, Barbara, Susan. None of them knew about any trip. None of them had heard from you. That's when I understood. I deserve more than being blocked out of your world. I deserve more than lies. I deserve more than wondering if my wife is alive or dead because she couldn't be bothered to answer her husband. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. I won't wait for explanations anymore. I won't let you make me feel small for wanting basic respect. Goodbye, Jennifer. James. The letter slipped from my fingers and floated to the floor. My knees buckled, and I collapsed into a chair, my whole body shaking with sobs that came from somewhere deep and primal. He knew. He'd called my friends. He'd discovered my lie. And instead of screaming or confronting me, he'd simply left. I grabbed my phone and called him. It rang once, then went straight to voicemail. I called again. Same thing. I sent a text. "James, please. Let me explain. I'm so sorry. Please come home." The message showed as delivered, but no response came. I tried calling again and again. I left voicemails begging him to talk to me, promising I'd do anything to fix this. Nothing. Days turned into weeks. I called his office, but his assistant said he'd taken a leave of absence. I drove to his brother Paul's house, but Paul wouldn't even open the door. "He doesn't want to see you," Paul said through the crack. "Just leave him alone." I mailed letters to his parents' house in Pittsburgh, pouring my heart onto page after page. I explained everything, my loneliness, my mistake, my regret. I told him I'd end all contact with Andrew. I told him I loved him. I begged for another chance. None of the letters were returned, but none were answered either. It was like James had erased me from existence. Andrew tried to contact me afterward, calling and texting about when we'd see each other again. Each notification made me feel physically ill. I blocked his number and deleted every trace of him from my phone. The man I'd thought would make me feel alive had only helped me destroy the life I'd taken for granted. I'd go to work, come home, and sit in the empty house surrounded by reminders of James, his coffee mug still in the cabinet, his favorite sweater I'd always borrowed hanging in the closet, photos of us on the walls, both of us smiling, both of us happy in a time that now felt like a distant dream. My friend Susan finally confronted me. Everyone's asking about you and James. What's going on?" I couldn't tell her the truth. I couldn't admit that I'd thrown away my marriage for a week of meaningless excitement. So I gave her the sanitized version. We grew apart. It happens. But late at night, alone in our bed, now just my bed, the truth haunted me. I hadn't just broken James's trust. I'd broken him. 4 months after I returned from that trip, divorce papers arrived via courier. They were clinical, professional, without a trace of emotion. No angry accusations. No demands for explanations. Just legal language terminating our marriage. There was a sticky note on the front page in James's handwriting. Sign and return. Let's make this quick and clean. Even in divorce, he was kind. He'd listed everything as mutual separation. He wasn't asking for alimony or trying to take anything that wasn't his. He just wanted out. I signed the papers with tears streaming down my face, each stroke of the pen feeling like I was signing away my own soul. Sometimes, late at night, I still scroll through old photos of us. James kissing me at our wedding. James laughing at one of my terrible jokes. James holding me after my father died, promising he'd never leave me. I broke that promise for him. I left first, emotionally, and he did what I never had the courage to do. He chose himself. I learned too late that love isn't about excitement or passion or adventure. Those things are beautiful, but they're not the foundation. Love is about loyalty, respect, trust, the quiet, steady comfort of knowing someone will be there. Even when things get boring, I had all of that with James, and I traded it for a fantasy that evaporated the moment I stepped back into reality. Now I live with the ghost of a marriage I destroyed. I blocked my husband for 7 days because I didn't want him to interrupt my affair. He blocked me from his life forever because he finally realized he deserved better. And he was absolutely right. If this story hit you hard, leave a comment telling me what you'd do in James's position. Would you have left too, or would you have fought for the marriage? Hit subscribe for more real stories about consequences, justice, and the moments that change everything. Remember, the choices we make in private define who we are in public. Thanks for listening.